Hey guys, sorry about that. Okay, so this is part 10 continued. I paused the video, trying to get my composure back, and for some reason it didn't record any sound. And it stopped while I was doing it. So, I'll try this again. So, after I ran away, I just talked about me running away and me coming back home. So after I ran away, my uncle demanded that I go to church with him the very next day. He said that I needed church now more than ever. He felt like the lack of church in my life was my downfall. He thought that by forcing me to go to church, it would end all my problems. At the church, he followed me around everywhere. When I would talk to someone, he would listen to the conversation in its entirety and make comments as I would talk. Due to the embarrassment this caused me, I decided to sit alone and not speak with anyone. As he stood there watching me do nothing, another church member asked him what he was doing. He explained how he was keeping a very close eye on me and said, "She won't run again on my watch." He told them he was taking me the next day to the police station to give me back to them. He said he didn't feel safe for his mother to be in the same house as me. He told them I had a journal where I kept my evil thoughts of everyone and how I planned to lie on my entire family and to have them sent to prison like I did with my dad. He said his mother had always been wonderful to my brother and I. He said that she deserved so much better from us than this. He talked about how she gave up her retirement to raise us and how we had done nothing but cause her problems. After hearing all of this, I decided to run away again as soon as possible. Uh, so I gave her what she wanted, and now I was the one in trouble and humiliated in front of other people. It was just like I was back in foster care. I couldn't get away from this no matter where I was. I was a liar because I was the only one with a reason to lie. I was the only one with problems, so it had to mean I was the problem. I wasn't good. Let me go down just a little bit more. I wasn't from a good home, so I would never be good enough for anything. There were truths I told myself for so long. When I got home, I got my unpacked bag and placed it in front of the door of the closet. After my grandmother went to bed, I walked right out the front door, locking it behind me. Up the road far enough from the trailer to avoid detection so I could come back for my things. I put my bag and my two book bags. I hid them on the side of the road beside a big rock. This time I thought about my journal, then left on foot to a payphone. This walk took a few hours, so I had plenty of time to think. While walking, all I could do was wonder why everybody hated me so much. It didn't take long for my thoughts to find its way outside my head. There was so much emotion for me to hold on to keep it all in. Out loud, walking down the road, I had a one-sided conversation with God. I wanted to know why, when I told the truth, everyone swore it was a lie, how nothing I ever did seemed to be good enough, why he would send an innocent soul to the earth to have such a horrible life. I asked him why I almost died so many times just to keep living and suffering. Why did the good times in my life only last for a little while, but the bad seemed to last forever? I started to believe that I had decided this life for myself. My parents, everything. What I knew about God didn't add up to what I was going through. I wondered how anyone claimed to be so close to God but so far away from what he really was. How could they know God and still be asleep to everything he was? While I was experiencing all this pain and hurt, I never thought of looking for a possible lesson to learn from it. I was a victim. I had always been, and I always will be. I felt that I was going, that I felt like that was going to be my story. I wondered if I could do anything to hide the fact that I'm a victim. I thought about completely changing my name, becoming someone else, somewhere else. I just didn't want to run away from the situation with my family, but I wanted to run away from myself as well. I couldn't stand to be in my own skin. I felt as if I had a mark on my forehead that told everyone I was a victim. I started to lose who I was. Being me wasn't sociably acceptable. These things and thoughts stuck with me for a long time. I finally got to the closest gas station. I used the payphone to call anyone I could think that would come pick me up. I got in touch with Maria's mom. She sent her boyfriend to come pick me up. I told her the things that I had heard my uncle say at the church and a little bit of how I ended up with my grandmother to begin with. They both agreed to let me stay there again. It wasn't long until my welcome ran out. I made Maria's mom very angry after asking her boyfriend, who happened to be home at the time, if he minded getting me a pack of cigarettes from town. Instead of him possibly getting the wrong cigarettes, he asked if I wouldn't mind to come with him. I didn't see any harm in going, so I went. After he got me the cigarettes, he asked if Maria and I were hungry. I said yes, and he went next door and got us some food. When we got back to the house, her mom came out of the house furious, demanding to know what we had been doing while we were out. She called the house to talk to Maria, who told her that I had gone to the store and would be back soon. She left work and rushed home as if to catch us in some kind of sexual act. She felt like there was something sexual going on between us, regardless of what we both said. They fought for a couple days over the matter in their bedroom. Maria and I would stop and listen from time to time to see if what she was going to do. She wanted me to leave the home, but the boyfriend swore nothing happened and he wanted me to stay, even if it meant him moving out for the time being. He explained to her how I was a little girl and he did nothing with me, that he would be looking for a long prison sentence if he had. She felt he had feelings for me. He didn't want to kick her out, or she didn't want to kick him out. She wanted to kick me out, and he explained that if I left, he left. He explained how he could go anywhere and that my options were limited. She finally agreed to let me stay, but she laid down a law. I wasn't to ask her boyfriend for any more favors. I wasn't even to speak to him. If I was hungry, I was to go find something to fix or walk somewhere to get food. If I was out of cigarettes, I was to walk to get more or do without. If she was going to town, I could ride with her to get things I needed. I complied with her wishes, but didn't know how to make things better. Everything had been going so great until that day. When I was in the room, her mother would walk in. Even with my back turned, I could feel the tension. When she would speak to me, it reminded me of the way my mother's family talked to me. I didn't understand why she was so mad at me. Her boyfriend was her mom's age or older. He didn't look attractive to me. He reminded me of someone's dad. The last time I spoke with her, I tried to tell a joke to lighten the mood. When that didn't work either, I just started staying other places. Sometimes abandoned apartments close to the school just to let things cool down. I would go to parties hoping that night someone would let me stay the night with them. Grown men were trying to have sex with me in exchange for a roof over my head and a little food in my belly. I was tired of asking for help, but getting threatened like a new sex, or getting treated like a new sex toy instead. When nights were too cold to stay in the empty apartment, I would go somewhere else. I would walk back to Maria's house. A lot of the times, no one would open the door. There was a house across the street that was empty and was often my refuge from the cold. One night, I was hanging out with Maria at her boyfriend's apartment. Her boyfriend had a friend that did meth. She asked him for some to try, and he just gave it to us. We went back to her house to try it for the first time together. She did it first, and I was waiting to see what it did to her. After a few minutes, she started saying that her heart was racing and she felt like it was going to beat out of her chest. Her palms were sweaty and she was shaking. As she laid on the bed with her head hanging off the side, she said that she felt like her heart was going to explode. She started to cry because she said it was hurting. It scared me so bad to watch her freak out that I didn't try it. After some time, we decided to pierce our noses with a sewing needle. We did hers first, then mine. Problem was, whenever she forced the ring through, it went under my skin and up, becoming very painful to touch, and instead of going through my nose like the needle had done. After messing with it, I realized what had happened. I tried doing it again correctly through the same hole after she had fallen asleep. When I put the needle through a second time, my nose gushed blood, and I became lightheaded and passed out. I had not eaten much in the last few months, and it was starting to show. When I regained consciousness, I still had the needle in my nose. I gathered some courage and finished the job. As I was beginning to clean the blood off myself, cops surrounded the house. I woke Maria up and asked, "What do I do?" The girl's mom opened the bedroom door and pointed at me. There they stood with a picture of me. They found me again. They told my uncle They told me my uncle couldn't do anything to me. They said he was just speaking out of anger. They told me if I ran away again, I would be sent off, for me to behave, and I would be just fine. At the police station, my grandmother arrived with one of her daughters and her daughter's husband. This is the same uncle that came over and asked me questions about the conversation I had had in 6th grade with the girl. They were noticeably upset with me. My aunt noticed my new piercing right away and made a comment of the distastefulness of it. Due to my grandmother's previous claims of abuse to gain more attention from her children and my runaway record, no one wanted me there. My cousin hadn't offered to come get me like she had before I ran away. I found out another uncle had died while I was gone. He had a rough start in life too. He really sympathized with me in my situation. I felt like he was the only one that understood me. My grandmother agreed for me to stay with my best friend Lapita and her family for a while. I really enjoyed being there. They were Mexican, so I learned to cook different foods and dance to different music. I wanted to escape into the culture and adopt it as my own. I felt the further away I got from myself and the identity of the victim, the happier I would become. It didn't take long for her parents to start treating me differently as well. They had been talking to my grandmother. They started questioning everything I would say as if I was lying. If I wanted to do anything, I had to call my grandmother and ask in front of them so that everyone was on the same page. I didn't mind this much, but treating me like I was doing things I wasn't bothered me a great deal. It seemed like at the time, no matter where I was, my grandmother still wanted her thumb on me. Lapita's mom told me that she would be very busy planning Lapita's quinceañera. She said that my time there had to end. Once again, I was back with my grandmother. I started seeing a guy named Aaron. He claimed to be my age, but was really a lot older than me. I didn't care at the time how old he was. I just didn't want to be lied to. The relationship was very toxic from the beginning. There was every type of abuse that was previously received from my dad in this relationship. I had put myself in my mother's shoes. It wasn't long until I was confronted about sneaking out of my window to see Aaron and letting him in my room at night. Everything I told my family about him was a lie. The lady he claimed was his mother was a lie. The lady used to be my aunts and uncles' teachers back in school. They tried to tell me he was lying. They begged me not to be so naive. I thought they just didn't want me to be with him because he was Hispanic. I was often asked what my problem was with my own race. I felt they were being racist. and I would stop at nothing to end that they would stop at nothing to end the relationship due to the affliction the reflection it might put back on them. I had seen them lie to each other so much I couldn't tell when they were telling the truth. I chose to believe Aaron instead. As far as I knew, he had never lied to me. I asked It wasn't long until I asked my stepdad if I could live with him. He wasn't against my relationship with Aaron. He always seemed to support me in areas no one else did. I felt that this was the best place for me to go. My mom was in prison, so Mark was technically a single male about to take care of a wild teenager. This put me in a position to see for myself if Mark was who he claimed to be. I was getting close to the age of 16 when I moved in with Mark. I had learned during my time with him, some people will always choose to do what's right regardless of the gain or loss, because that's the person that they want to be. I learned I could choose to become, that I could learn, I learned I could choose who I become even with the stuff that happened to me. There was a hearing to give Mark custody, and surprisingly the judge agreed. Going back into the state's custody wasn't the best thing for me. He said if I wanted to live with Mark, maybe I should. I was old enough to choose to live with a different parent, and in his eyes this was similar. A law had just passed months prior that allowed children to live with friends of the family, as well as family members if for whatever reason they couldn't be with their parents, or their parents were unable to care for them. Aaron attended the hearing and told them he was 17 at the time. This helped confirm my stepdad's intentions were of pure nature. When we got back home, I asked Aaron why he told them he was 17 and not 16. He said it was so that he would seem more grown up. He said that he was about to be 17, so it wasn't a lie. I didn't see how being more grown up at the time helped at all, but I figured 16-year-old boys might think like that. I asked him, when do you turn 17? He said next month. I thought that was odd since the month before he had just turned 16. When I called him out on it, he lied and tried to tell me I was crazy. Due to the freedom I was given at Mark's, I didn't feel the need to lie and sneak around. He didn't address me by my father's name as my grandmother did, so I felt less attached to my dad around him. Not long after moving there, I found out I was pregnant. Aaron had seemed so excited, planning out things for a family and speaking to me more patiently. After the first week, he started to seem very distant and angered by everything I did. I asked him if he would buy me a bottle of bleach to wash my clothes I was wearing the night before. I didn't want my stepdad to see my clothes and possibly feel the need to take me to the ER. No one knew about my pregnancy yet. Aaron had been speeding coming back from another town where we had watched a movie with his cousin and his cousin's girlfriend. It had rained, so the roads were slick. After hydroplaning going into a curve, he jerked the wheel to the right and then to the left. We ended up jumping a ditch and crashing into a bank at about 75 miles per hour. The airbags exploded. It knocked me unconscious. I didn't realize how badly I was hurt until the next day. We walked to my stepdad's on foot. To my surprise, Aaron didn't ask about the baby or if I felt okay or anything. I was trying to stay in shape, just as I had always been. I didn't want to let myself go, so to speak, like other girls had done after giving birth. Aaron had already started pointing out all my little imperfections and told me if I were to lose my shape, he would definitely have to end the relationship. I would go for walks exploring roads in the subdivision where my stepdad lived. Aaron said he would be over after he got off to bring the bleach. I started to think while on my walk about the wreck my parents had been in when I was 6. My dad had pulled out into oncoming traffic and on the passenger side of the car where my mom was. My mom was on a walker for quite some time and unable to do much. My dad claimed that he had a neck injury, but it only seemed to bother him while people were around. I couldn't help but to think maybe Aaron just tried to kill me or his baby. When he tried to bring the bleach the first time, I had been out walking. He didn't know where I was, and he claimed that he knew I was with another guy. When he called later that evening, he accused me of cheating. He claimed that he saw me inside the house with another guy. I explained that how that was impossible because at that time I was out walking. I asked him why he lied about me. Oh, I asked him why he lied about the time that he was going to come over, and he said it was to catch me doing what I was doing. We argued for a while over this matter. He told me he would try tomorrow to bring the bleach. When he arrived, he was shirtless and not in work clothes. He didn't smell like he had been around any cars. He worked at a body shop doing cars and stuff, so a lot of times he smelled like oil and stuff like that. And usually he was pretty dirty. His hands wasn't dirty like they usually were when he worked on cars. I looked in the car and I seen a friend with him. Then I seen condoms in the cup holder. I asked him why he had those. He promised they weren't his. He said he was his cousin's. That he had let the cousin borrow the car. I asked him why his cousin would need condoms if his girlfriend was already pregnant. He told me he didn't know, very annoyed at my questions. He stated quickly that he had to return to work. That was the last time I saw him for months. The next day I called after not hearing anything from him all day, no answer. This went on for months. I eventually called his job. They said he quit. At home they said he moved. His cell no longer belonged to him, it belonged to his cousin. There were others that said he was still around. After doing everything in my power with no success in finding him, I did learn the truth about how he felt about me. His family didn't know I was pregnant. He swore I was just saying whatever I could to get him trapped. Twice while I was pregnant, a friend fooled me into meeting up with him again. Oh, hold on a minute. I skipped a lot. Oh, after a minute, I ended up calling the lady that he claimed to be his mother. She told me that he was around the age of 21 to 22. She told me how he became her adopted son, but not legally. I eventually gave up on the realization that I gave up on the realization that we would be a family and started. I'm sorry, I said that completely wrong. I gave up on the hope of being a family and the realization that I would be raising my daughter alone. I had terrible morning sickness, and in my entire pregnancy, I only gained 1 pound. Aaron didn't believe I was pregnant. He swore that I was just doing everything and anything I could to trap him. While I was pregnant, a friend fooled me into meeting up with him again. He said that so he could see that I was pregnant. Now that he could see I was, he thought that I was now lying about him being the father. When I was still living with my grandmother and our nighttime meetings were discovered, I asked him about me getting pregnant. I had been doing research on emancipation. I felt I needed out from under the ones that didn't have my best interest at heart. I wanted to legally be on my own. He seemed to be a good enough guy. He had his own car. He had a place to live. I thought that I could fake it till I made it. And as far as feelings went toward him, he did what I asked, but quickly realized he wasn't ready to settle down. I didn't have the right intentions starting out in the relationship, neither did he. Alright guys, we are almost at 25 minutes. I just want to say a little something about this. It sucks being knocked up and then the father of your child just abandoning you. Eventually he did come back around, but if they're not ready to be a dad, don't make them. because it just puts more strain on you, and it just leave them alone. And if eventually, if they come around and they decide that they want to be a dad, let them. And if they never do, then it's okay, because your child's got you. And the same goes for the opposite sex. You know, if the mother don't want to be around, she doesn't want that responsibility, let her be. You know, eventually, nothing you say or do is, if you try to make them do that, they're going to end up resenting that child, and there's probably going to be more hurt than anything there. But if you just let it be and they come around on their own time, things work out a whole lot better. But alrighty, I'm gonna stop for now. I will do part 11 here soon. I only had time to do 2 videos today, so stay safe, be good, see y'all next time.